Eric Wilson only got engaged to me to make his first love jealous. Later, when his first love cried a little, he softened up. In front of everyone, they passionately kissed and announced they were back together, making me a laughingstock. Until later, a photo of me being kissed by a man in a Maybach car went trending on social media. The man in the photo was Eric's brother, also the actual head of the Wilson family. I had been dating Eric for 2 years, and we were supposed to get our marriage license next week. Tonight, his friends threw a pool party to celebrate for us. Under the night sky, men and women in swimwear swayed their tipsy bodies to the rhythm of the music. When the party atmosphere was at its peak, Eric's first love appeared. No one expected Ivy Smith to come, until Eric yelled, "Who the hell invited her?" The music abruptly stopped. Everyone was stunned, and no one dared to speak. Ivy's eyes were red, and she said in a tearful voice, "Eric, I need to talk to you." When Eric and Ivy broke up before, it was a huge scandal. Everyone knew that to keep Ivy. Eric chased her to Paris on a private jet but still couldn't keep her. Someone couldn't stand Ivy. Enough. Ivy, quit acting all sentimental. Back then, you almost killed Eric with how you tortured him. And now, the speaker was muffled and dragged away. The remaining people all turned their gazes to my face. Eric suddenly put his arm around my shoulder and pulled me into his embrace. He said to Ivy, "Fine. Spit it out fast. My wife is in a hurry to go home for her beauty sleep." Ivy held back her tears, walked up to Eric, and extended her hand. Palm open. It was a diamond ring. "This is the ring you gave me when you proposed. You said you had to put it on the finger of the person you loved most." Ivy glanced at me, then said to Eric, "Since the person you love isn't me anymore, I should return it to you." Eric stared at the diamond ring in Ivy's palm, his grip on my shoulder tightening, almost crushing my bones. The next second, he grabbed the ring and flung it. The ring arced through the air and fell into the pool. Ivy screamed, "My ring!" Then she chased after it like crazy and jumped into the water. Someone in the crowd shouted, "She doesn't know how to swim." I think. The pressure on my shoulder suddenly vanished. I watched Eric rush forward and instinctively reached out to stop him. "Eric, don't go." But he pushed me back, and I fell to the ground. Immediately after, with a splash, Eric jumped into the pool without hesitation. Ivy was pulled ashore by Eric. Eric was frantic, performing chest compressions on her and shouting her name. After who knows how many rounds of CPR, Ivy suddenly spat out water and regained consciousness. Eric sighed in relief and pulled her into his embrace. "Are you fucking stupid? Trying to get yourself killed?" Ivy cried in Eric's arms. "Eric, you still care about me, don't you? Eric, I've missed you so much." Eric softened again. He picked Ivy up from the ground and turned to walk toward the villa. I called out to him, "Eric." Eric stopped, and after a few seconds of silence, he said to me with his back turned, in front of everyone, "Emily Brown. I can't let her go. My family and the Wilson family are old friends. When I was a child, our families arranged a marriage for us. But later, Eric Wilson fell in love with Ivy Smith, and he fought fiercely with his family over her. If Ivy Smith hadn't pursued her dreams and abandoned Eric back then, they would probably be married by now. After they broke up, to spite Ivy, Eric got engaged to me. He never liked me before. Later, he had a car accident and almost became crippled. It was I who encouraged him, accompanied him through rehabilitation, and helped him endure those days of utter despair. On Valentine's Day, Eric said he liked me. We started dating officially. He would send me flowers and gifts, and set off birthday fireworks for me. Once, when I was bullied, after Eric found out, he almost beat the guy to death. But so what? Eric still couldn't let go of Ivy. 2 days later, Eric called me. On the phone, he was silent for a long time before saying, "Emily Brown. About getting our marriage license. Can we wait a bit longer?" I was also silent for a long time before replying. No, Eric. I don't want to marry you anymore. This matter quickly reached both families. My phone was ringing off the hook. My father barked at me fiercely, threatening. If anything goes wrong with this collaboration with the Wilson family, I won't let you off. Useless thing. Just like your dead mother. A good for nothing. My mother has been dead for 15 years. My father still scolds me and my mother for no reason whenever he feels like it. However, Eric's mother comforted me, saying, Emily Brown, I know Eric must have upset you. Don't take it to heart. I'll definitely scold him for you. She seemed to know about Iva's affair. Before hanging up, she specifically emphasized, Emily, rest assured. The Wilson family only recognizes you as the daughter-in-law. Eric has a rebellious nature. His mother couldn't control him. So at the Wilson Group's anniversary banquet, completely disregarding my presence, he publicly brought Ivy along with him. When I was alone, Ivy took the initiative to talk to me. She showed me the ring on her ring finger. Eric Wilson searched for a long time in the pool that night to find it. Fortunately, it's back on my finger. I stared at the sparkling diamond ring under the chandelier and smiled slightly. Congratulations. Actually, that night when Eric was searching for the ring in the pool, I was standing at the French window on the second floor of the villa, watching. It was raining heavily that night. I watched for as long as Eric searched. Later, the rain stopped. The ring was found. And my heart died. Ivy glanced at Eric chatting with people in the distance and asked me, Emily Brown, do you believe in fate? I certainly do. Just like you stole Eric from me for 2 years. Yet you still couldn't enter his heart. I only need to play a little trick. And he obediently came back. I asked calmly, Ivy Smith, if you have something to say it directly. No need to beat around the bush. Ivy looked at the tower of stacked champagne glasses in front of her, grinned triumphantly at me. There really is something I need Emily to help with. But before she could say what it was, I had already reached out and pushed her. In an instant, all the champagne glasses crashed to the ground as Ivy bumped into them, spilling all over her. Ivy stared at me in astonishment. I laughed and said, rather than being accused by you of pushing you down, it's more satisfying to do it myself. The crowd turned around at the sound. Looking shocked, Eric rushed over, took off his suit jacket, draped it over Ivy, turned to me, and yelled, Emily, are you crazy? I asked Eric. If I said that Ivy asked me to help push her down, would you believe me? Eric Wilson looked at me with eyes as if he were seeing a madwoman. The scene froze, until a man's voice came from behind me. I believe. Some people nearby were whispering in low voices. How did the heir of the Wilson family suddenly return from abroad? Yeah. Is he coming back to officially take over the corporation? I turned and saw Michael Wilson in a black suit walking toward me. He was Eric's older brother. 6 years Eric's senior. My shoulders sank under weight. Michael draped the black overcoat he had been carrying on his arm over me. The air conditioning is strong here. Wearing a strapless dress, aren't you afraid of getting sick? I gave him a grateful look. When did Michael Wilson return? I had called him that since childhood, out of habit, and never changed it after growing up. His tone was steady. Just arrived. Straight from the airport. Ivy Smith didn't know when Eric had helped her up. Now, like a limp figure, she was softly nestled in Eric's arms. Michael glanced at Ivy and said to Eric, still want to make a fool of yourself here? If anyone in the world could rein in Eric, it was only Michael. Wherever Michael was present, the atmosphere around turned extremely tense. Honestly, I was a little afraid of him too. Eric didn't dare talk back, supporting Ivy. He left in disgrace under everyone's gaze. Michael first greeted Mr. and Mrs. Wilson. After that, he led me away from the banquet. A silver-roofed extended Maybach was parked in the manor's courtyard. Michael took an exquisite gift box from the car, tied with a pink bow. For you, he said. lifting one corner of his lips with a hint of laughter in his breath. With both hands, I accepted the gift box he handed over. Curiously unwrapping it was actually the pair of dance shoes I had admired overseas. For various reasons, I had never managed to buy them, and regretted it for a long time. He asked, "Do you like them?" Maybe the wind outside was too strong. My eyes felt a bit sore as I hugged the dance shoes to my chest and nodded hard. "I like them very much." Michael's steady voice carried tenderness. "Happy birthday." My heart felt like it was hit hard. I thought no one remembered today was my birthday. "Thank you, Michael." He pulled a cigarette from a custom cigarette case and lit it. "Eric and that woman's business. I know all about it. As Eric's brother, I apologize on his behalf." I shook my head. "He is him. You two different things." Michael exhaled a puff of smoke, looking at me through the gray-white haze. "The little girl has grown up. She speaks differently now." He flicked the ash off his cigarette. His eyes shadowed under the streetlight. "Unreadable." He suddenly asked me, "Want to get back at Eric?" My mouth moved faster than my brain. "How?" Just then, Eric emerged from the banquet hall, standing at the manor's entrance and calling out, "Emily Brown." At the sound, I turned. Almost simultaneously, a hand gripped my waist. Michael pressed me against his chest, his broad palm holding the back of my neck, forcing me to look up and meet his gaze. Our breaths mingled. I caught the scent of tobacco in his exhale. He leaned in close, his face almost touching mine. "Let me teach you." The next second, Michael Wilson lowered his head and kissed me almost fiercely. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Eric Wilson running frantically toward us. Michael didn't give him any chance, directly pulling me into the car and ordering the driver, "Drive." In the rearview mirror, I watched Eric chasing after the car. Finally, Ivy Smith caught up from a distance and stopped him. As the car sped up, Eric and Ivy grew smaller and smaller, disappearing completely around the corner. Michael asked me, "Satisfied?" I nodded and admitted frankly, "Pretty good." "But, Michael," I turned to look at him, "you shouldn't have done that. I know you wanted to stand up for me, but if others saw it, it would look bad, making them think you like me." Michael suddenly lifted his gaze to me. The orange streetlights outside the car window flashed across his handsome face, leaving me momentarily dazed. His voice sounded steady yet unreadable. "Think what about me?" Uncomfortable under his stare, I stammered, "Think. You and I have an improper relationship." "Improper relationship." Michael repeated word for word, his brow furrowed, a trace of helplessness in his eyes. Michael drove me home. As soon as I entered, my dad slapped me across the face without warning, his expression dark. He pointed at my nose and yelled, "You've shamed the Brown family. Your own fiancé parades around with another woman, and you didn't dare to say a word. What else can I expect from you?" I pressed my tongue against my numb right cheek and sneered, "So from now on, you'd better expect nothing from me. It'll only make things worse for you." My dad clutched his chest in anger. My stepmother rushed over to support him, chiming in, "Oh dear. What nonsense are you spouting? Your father works hard to provide for this family. Don't you feel for him?" I didn't hold back with my stepmother either, retorting, "If you feel for him, then let your daughter marry into the Wilson family." "Oh, right. I almost forgot your daughter tried to seduce a rich heir last time. Failed to marry into wealth, got knocked up, ended up having an abortion and being abandoned. And now she's notorious. The Wilson family wouldn't want her." Enraged, my stepmother glared at me. "You little bitch. What are you talking about?" I laughed. "Isn't it the truth? And you before even 100 days had passed after my mom's death. You waddled in here pregnant. Couldn't you wait? Your daughter ending up like that is just deserts. Like father, like daughter." My dad's face turned completely dark. My stepmother lunged forward to hit me, but the doorbell interrupted her. The housekeeper said, Young Master Michael is here. The moment Michael walked in, he sensed the tense atmosphere in the room. My dad forced a smile. Michael's here. My stepmother pretended to be virtuous. Young Master Michael, have you eaten at this hour? Only I stood there with my head down. Not wanting him to see the slap mark on my facete was humiliating. After brushing them off with a few words, Michael said to me, "Emily Brown, you left something in the car. Mind coming out to get it?" I followed Michael outside. He stood at the villa entrance, handing me a bag tied with a pink ribbon. "You left your dance shoes in the car. Afraid he'd think I didn't cherish the gift." I quickly explained. "Sorry. It wasn't intentional. I just forgot them in a hurry when I got out." But he changed the subject. "Does your face still hurt?" Only then did I realize he'd already brought the dance shoes inside but made an excuse to call me out. It was deliberate. I stopped hiding it too. Shaking my head, I forced a smile and said, "I'm fine." Lu Chen remained composed, yet seemed to perceive everything. "Emily, you don't need to put on a brave front with me. You can trust me. I'll speak with your father. My father has suffered significant business losses over recent years and now eagerly seeks favor with the Wilson family. Especially Michael, the heir. If Michael asked him to treat me better, he'd agree immediately. Still, I declined. "Michael, I appreciate your kindness, but I don't want to burden you further. I can handle this myself." Michael's voice deepened. "Emily, I need you to understand you're never a burden to me, and am never afraid of trouble." His tone was calm, yet my chest tightened painfully. The next morning, I arrived punctually at dance company rehearsal. The company would select its top dancer by month's end to represent us in Paris, a chance to stand on the most prestigious stage. This dream had fueled my relentless training for 3 years. Victory felt certain. Then Ivy Smith appeared unexpectedly. When the director announced Ivy's immediate induction into the company and her participation in the selection, my mind went blank. Ivy introduced herself with a gracious smile. "As a newcomer, I'd appreciate everyone's support. To show sincerity, my boyfriend and I invite you all to dinner tonight at Blue Tie Restaurant." Her gaze lingered pointedly on me, radiating triumph. Murmurs rippled through the room as others applauded. Blue Tie is exclusive to the ultra-wealthish, must have serious connections. I heard they only serve VIPs worth tens of millions. Her boyfriend must be loaded. Before the chatter faded, invitations materialized in everyone's hands. Mine bore the signatures: Ivy Smith, Eric Wilson. Someone gasped. "Ivy, your boyfriend is Eric Wilson. Isn't that wild? Our lead dancer Emily's boyfriend is also named Eric Wilson." Every eye turned toward me. The coincidence became undeniable when Eric accompanied Ivy to dinner. Silence engulfed the private room, so profound you could hear a pin drop. Curiosity hung thick in the air. No one dared speak until the director finally asked, "Emily, care to explain?" I answered calmly. "Eric and I have already broken up. Now he's Ms. Smith's boyfriend." Rising from my chair, I added politely, "Excuse me, everyone. I need to visit the restroom." Upon exiting, Eric intercepted me. He demanded bluntly, "How long have you been with my brother? You were sneaking around with him behind my back, weren't you?" I laughed incredulously. "Eric, you've lost your mind." Attempting to sidestep him, I froze as his hand clamped around my wrist. With brutal force, he yanked me back. "Did you enjoy my brother kissing you? Emily, how could you stoop so low?" Enraged, I tried to strike him, but he seized both wrists, slamming me against the wall. Hatred burned in his eyes. "I should have known Browns have no shame. First your sister tried seducing me. Now you're sneaking around with Michael, same rotten tactics." He sneered. "If Ivy hadn't left me years ago, you think I'd have ever agreed to marry you? I only used you to make her jealous. Now that she's back, you mean nothing to me," though my heart had already hardened. His words still landed like physical blows. Trapped, I stomped hard on his instep. You and Ivy truly deserve each other. Never let go. As Eric recoiled in pain, I shoved past him, limping behind me. He shouted furiously, "Wake up, Emily. Michael's already engaged. He's just toying with you." I returned to the private room. The door stood ajar. Ivy Smith was chatting with the people inside, saying that she came back to the country this time specifically for the contestant spot in the dance troupe and she must get it. She also said that she was Eric Wilson's first love, and the two of them broke up because of a misunderstanding back then. As soon as she returned to the country, Eric couldn't wait to get back together with her and had even proposed to her. Someone asked what the misunderstanding was that led to their breakup. Ivy hinted in various ways that it was because of a third party. So when I walked in, everyone looked at me with the kind of look that resented third parties. But I didn't care. For some reason, at this moment, all I could think about was Michael Wilson's words. "My brother already has a fiancé. He was just playing around with you." At night in the CBP area, the neon lights were on and the traffic was like a flowing river. Among the towering skyscrapers, a 72-story white building lay across the center of the business district like a silver dragon. In the top floor office, Michael had just finished a transnational video conference. He was a bit tired and casually lit a cigarette. The secretary knocked on the door and came in to report. The person sent to bring an umbrella to Miss Emily is back. He said the dance troupe is having a dinner tonight and Miss Emily is not there. The person treating everyone to dinner is the second young master and Ivy. Michael tapped the ash off his cigarette and asked, "Who did you say?" The secretary explained. Ivy officially joined the dance troupe today. It was the second young master who spent money to pave the way for her. Tonight, they're treating the whole dance troupe to dinner at the Lontai restaurant as a couple. Before the secretary finished speaking, Michael had already crushed out the cigarette but in the ashtray filled with white gravel beside him, got up and walked out quickly. The secretary chased after him and asked, "Mr. Michael, what about the finance department meeting in 10 minutes? Michael said sharply. "Cancel it. Call Uncle Wang and tell him to wait at the door." Uncle Wang was almost 60 years old. He had been with Michael since he was a child. He was both a driver and a housekeeper. By the time Michael came out, the Maybach was already parked at the building entrance. While waiting at a red light, Uncle Wang glanced at the rear-view mirror. Michael was sitting with his eyes closed and resting, but his brows were tightly furrowed. He said, "The only person who can make you this anxious is Miss Emily. Last time, in order to come back in time to give Miss Emily her birthday present, you were also in such a hurry." Michael rubbed his temples and said casually, "You're really getting better at talking as you get older." By the time the dinner was over, it was already 9 o'clock at night. It was raining outside. Everyone from the dance troupe was standing at the restaurant entrance to avoid the rain. Some calling for a car and some waiting for someone. Ivy put her arm through Eric's and said to me very generously, "Miss Emily, let us give you a ride." Eric also had a playful smile on his face. At this time, someone suddenly shouted, "Wow! What a beautiful car." I turned my head in the direction of the voice and saw Michael's silver-topped Maybach slowly pulling up to the curb. The driver got out of the car, holding a black umbrella. He trotted over and opened the rear door. Michael picked up his suit jacket with one hand, got out of the car, took the black umbrella from the driver and walked towards us. The little girls beside me were so excited and kept saying, "Wow, how handsome," in front of everyone. Michael put the suit jacket in his hand over my shoulders. "Come on. I'll take you home." He put his arm around my shoulder and sheltered me under the umbrella. More than half of his own body was exposed outside and got wet by the rain. I saw Eric clench his fists tightly, but he didn't dare to say a word. It was only after the Maybach had driven a long way I came to my senses. I asked Michael in surprise, "How did you know I was here?" Michael gave a lazy smile. "I just happened to pass by the dance troupe. I heard people saying you were having dinner here tonight. So I came to take a chance. The rain was getting heavier and the windshield wipers were swinging back and forth on the windshield. The neon lights on the street were also getting more and more blurred. Michael suddenly asked me, "Emily, do you still like Eric?" He had asked me this question before. It was probably during the spring festival one year. I had just gotten engaged to Eric at that time, and Michael had come back from abroad to celebrate the spring festival. I had answered him, "Yes, I do," because Eric Wilson was the first person to hand me a lollipop and offer warmth during my most helpless time, the year my mother passed away. But tonight, watching raindrops fall in an orderly pattern on the car window, I shook my head firmly and said, "I don't like him." I turned my gaze from the window and looked at Michael Wilson, calmly and seriously adding, "But I also want like someone who has a fiancé." Michael always appeared coincidentally like this, stepping in for me once or twice. I'm not a fool. Even though Michael is exceptional, my self-respect wouldn't allow me to play dumb or sink to being a nameless, unofficial mistress. Michael frowned. "What fiancé? Who has a fiancé?" I was a bit confused by the question. "Eric said you already have a fi." Michael cut me off bluntly. "No," he stated succinctly. "No one can decide my marriage except me. I have to give the nod myself. So, Emily Brown." When he called my name, my heart skipped a beat. "You can consider it," I asked. "Consider what?" Michael's gaze was like the deepest lake, brimming with affection, so full it seemed ready to overflow. "Consider me." Because of Michael's "consider me," I didn't sleep a wink all night, my heart pounding erratically. I wasn't this nervous even when I got engaged to Eric. It was almost dawn before I managed to doze off briefly. The next day, when I arrived at the dance troupe, it was already noon. And I ran into Ivy Smith in the changing room. She had just finished practicing, sweat still beading on her forehead. She spoke up first. "I heard Miss Emily values this competition highly, and coincidentally, so do I." As I took off my coat, I replied, "Then let's each rely on our own skills." Ivy took a sip of water, came closer, and chuckled softly. "Emily, give up. Don't chase after things that don't belong to you," she boasted smugly. "I might as well tell you. My joining this troupe and entering this selection competition are all thanks to Eric's support. He donated $2 million to the troupe, which is why the director is so attentive to me and promised I'd represent the troupe in Paris. So whether it's Eric or the competition spot, they're both mine." I ignored her, put on my dance shoes, and locked the locker. Smiling at Ivy, I countered, "Don't speak so confidently. It's not certain who will win yet." As I passed by her, she sneered, "You don't actually think latching onto Michael means everything's smooth sailing, do you? Do I need to remind you that Michael is the heir of the Wilson family? His future spouse will definitely be from a prestigious family, not a woman like you whose family has declined." I turned back with a smile and retorted, "Do you think everyone is like you, relying solely on men?" After that, I headed for the door. Ivy called after me, "Emily, do you know why Eric doesn't like you? It's because your pride is truly annoying. No man would ever like someone like you." When Michael came out of the office, Uncle Wang was waiting at the door. He followed Michael into the elevator and mentioned Eric donating money for Ivy, adding that the troupe was likely to unofficially reserve the competition spot for Ivy. Michael knew Emily's greatest wish was to perform on stage in Paris. With one hand in his pocket, he waved the other at Uncle Wang. "Send someone to intervene. Don't let Emily know." But just after stepping out of the elevator, Michael regretted it. He stopped Uncle Wang. "Hold off for now. Let's wait and see." He understood Emily. Doing it this way would make her feel she hadn't earned it fairly, even though it was a small matter for him. Just a word. He didn't want Emily to misunderstand him. He believed in Emily's ability and respected her. The Maybach slowly pulled away from the building entrance, merging into the main traffic flow. Uncle Wang noticed Michael's gaze drifting out the window. seemingly preoccupied, and asked, "Shall we head straight to the airport? Or should we stop by the dance troupe to say hello to Miss Emily first? After all, this business trip will take at least 2 weeks to return." Michael Wilson pulled a cigarette from a custom-made case, holding it in his hand and toying with it. Since that night he told Emily Brown to consider him. Emily hadn't contacted him again. He feared his behavior had been too reckless, frightening her. To the airport. Michael lit the cigarette, took a deep drag, and lowered his gaze, saying, "The competition is at the end of the month. Don't disturb her. Let her focus on training." It was already a week later when I received Michael's call again. I had just finished training and was about to shower. The phone vibrated incessantly in my hand, and I stared at the words Michael on the screen, my heart racing. "Hello," I said softly, trying to sound as calm as possible. On the other end, Michael waved his hand, dismissing the person reporting work from the office. He stood up and walked toward the floor-to-ceiling window, a cigarette dangling from the corner of his mouth. "What's with the social media feed? Who's sick?" He had been working all day, overwhelmed and frantic. Just moments ago, he had casually opened the messaging app and seen Emily's post seeking an imported medication on the feed. He couldn't sit still. "What social media feed?" I started. But before I finished, I realized what he meant. "You mean that post about the medicine? I was helping out a young girl from the dance troupe. Her father is sick and urgently needs that drug." I just shared it casually. Michael sighed in relief. He exhaled a puff of smoke and asked, "How's training going? With 3 days left until the preliminary round, do you feel confident?" I leaned against the corner of the dance studio wall, twisting the bottle cap with one hand. "It's going well, and I'm fairly confident. How about you? How's the negotiation?" Michael had texted me earlier. I knew he was abroad. "It's okay. Wrapping up now," I said, drawing out the syllable. After drinking water, I cradled the cup in my arms and tentatively asked, "So, will you make it back in time for my competition day?" Michael chuckled softly, whispering, "Do you want me to come back?" My nails dug hard into the cup's surface, biting my lip. I murmured in the tiniest voice, "I do." Michael swallowed repeatedly before calming his breath. "Wait for me." But on the day of my competition, Michael broke his promise. Instead, Eric Wilson sat in the audience the whole time, cheering for Ivy Smith. So even when Ivy messed up a move and had 2 consecutive mistakes, the troupe director pretended not to see it and led the praise for Ivy's solid technique. After my performance ended, the director did compliment me, saying, "Emily's performance was as stable and excellent as ever." But she adjusted her glasses on the bridge of her nose, feigning difficulty. Based on today's performances, our judging panel unanimously agrees that Ivy's stage presence outshines the rest. Therefore, the result of this preliminary round is Ivy's victory. Applause thundered from the audience, all motivated by money. While changing clothes backstage, Ivy said to me, "Emily, I told you you can't compete with me." I took a deep breath and smiled calmly. "Today was just the preliminaries. How can you be sure I won't turn things around in the finals?" That's what I said. But I knew money talks. When I left the dance troupe, the sun had already set, the evening glow seeping into the clouds to form fiery red streaks across the sky. Aimlessly, I walked along the roadside, passing through crowded streets and climbing onto a pedestrian overpass. Unexpectedly, on the other side of the bridge, I spotted Michael. People bustled across the overpass, rushing home from work, while traffic flowed like a river below, the fading sunlight casting a golden shimmer on the road. I watched Michael, dressed in a beige linen suit, walk toward me, and my steps unconsciously halted. He stopped in front of me and apologized immediately. "Emily, I'm sorry. My flight encountered thunderstorms, and I had to reroute through 3 cities just to barely make it back. But I still missed your competition, and I deeply regret it." I was feeling very down. But after meeting Michael Wilson, it improved a lot. I could even joke and say, "It's fine to miss it. Anyway, we lost. Nothing good to see." Michael frowned slightly. Suddenly, he took a step forward and gently embraced me. "Emily Brown. If you're sad, you can speak it out. I'm willing to listen." My eyelashes trembled slightly, and my nose felt sour. In his arms, I lowered my head, tears falling drop by drop. "Michael." I'm not reconciled. Michael patted my back, then win it back. "Emily. You can definitely stand on the stage in Paris with your own strength. I believe in you." Michael was walking me home. I asked him how he found me. Michael said he had been following me all the way from the dance troupe entrance. I had Uncle Wang stop the car at the intersection 1 block away from home. Michael looked down at me. "Why won't you let me walk you to your doorstep?" "Because I don't want my dad and stepmom to see us together. They'll bother you." Together. Michael certainly knows how to pick the key point. I then realized that saying this was too ambiguous. I quickly explained. "I didn't mean it that way. I meant it's better to avoid trouble than to invite it. So they don't cause you trouble." Michael couldn't help but laugh. "If it's trouble brought by being with you, I'm very willing." I was made to blush by what he said. I turned and got out of the car. Michael also chased after me. Grabbed my wrist. "Go to bed early tonight. Don't overthink things. If you really can't sleep, call me." I frowned. "Call you for what?" "To tell you a bedtime story. To lull you to sleep." There was a faint tease in Michael's words, but his eyes held affection. "Me. I'm not far from home." Eric Wilson suddenly walked out from behind a big tree, startling me. I almost threw the bag in my hand at his face. Eric said sarcastically, "So you are indeed with Michael." So Eric had seen Michael walk me back. None of your business. I picked up my bag to leave. But Eric grabbed my arm. He yelled at me, "You can be with anyone, just not Michael. I forbid you to be with him." I pushed him away with the back of my hand. "Why not Michael? Just because he's better than you." "Eric. You can't accept that a woman you abandoned is loved by another man who's better than you. Is that it? You think that after you dumped me, I should cry my eyes out, be in tears all day, then keep running to you begging for reconciliation, begging you to love me? Is that it?" I was emotional, my voice trembling as I vented my dissatisfaction at Eric. Eric stared at me in disbelief. "Emily, you've changed. You never used to talk to me so loudly before." I sneered. "I've never changed. It's you who never truly understood me." A trace of resentment gathered in Eric's eyes. "Emily, don't think you're so important. Take today's preliminary competition for example. It was just a word from Michael that could have turned things around, letting you win easily. But he didn't. Do you know why? Because you don't hold that weight in his heart. You're just a plaything he keeps by his side when he's lonely. No different from pets." I asked Eric. "So what? What's your point coming here in the middle of the night to tell me this?" "Eric, don't tell me you're jealous of Michael." Eric seemed to have hit a nerve, letting out an exaggerated sneer, looking at me with an unreasonable gaze. "Emily, stop being so narcissistic. I came just to tell you. I will definitely help Ivy Smith get the opportunity to go to Paris. You're bound to lose." The day before the finals, Michael Wilson made a phone call. It was to Andrew, who had just flown in from Paris to judge the finals for major domestic dance troupes. Andrew is a 40-year-old Frenchman with excellent Chinese. Michael Wilson and he were old acquaintances. When Andrew received Michael Wilson's call, he was surprised. After exchanging some pleasantries, Michael Wilson got straight to the point. "Andrew, I'm calling to ask for a favor." Andrew laughed and asked, "I'm curious. What could make you open your esteemed mouth?" Michael Wilson poured a glass of whiskey, leaned back on the sofa, and told Andrew about Emily Brown and the dance troupe. After hearing this, Andrew was furious. He hates injustice the most. But Michael Wilson emphasized, "Andrew, I just hope you can judge this finals fairly and impartially, using your professional eye and attitude to select the best dancers, without being influenced by other factors. If you think Emily Brown is okay, then choose her. If you feel she doesn't meet your requirements, don't make an exception because of me. That would be an insult to her. When hanging up, Andrew asked curiously, "What is your relationship with Miss Brown, that you care so much?" Michael Wilson said frankly, "The kind where I want to spend the rest of my life with her." On the day of the finals, Michael Wilson texted me, saying he had arrived and was sitting in the second-floor audience seats. He had chosen the most inconspicuous spot, but when I stepped on stage, I recognized him in the crowd at a glance. I suppressed my racing heart, lowered my head, and composed myself. As the music started, I gently touched the ground with my toes, like a thin gauze floating in the air. Every movement was fluid and precise, telling the beautiful story in the music to the audience. My feelings were like those of the heroine in the story, hoping the hero would see her most graceful dance moves. The music faded. I bowed to the audience. Thunderous applause erupted from below. On the judges' panel, a blonde, blue-eyed Frenchman suddenly stood up and clapped excitedly for me. "Perfect." He lavished praise on the director beside him. "Your dance troupe is full of hidden talents." She danced incredibly well. I haven't seen such an outstanding, gifted dancer in years. He eagerly asked me, "What's your name?" I caught my breath. "Emily Brown." His eyes lit up, and he looked at me with surprise, saying meaningfully, "Emily Brown, I'll remember you. Let me introduce myself. I'm Andrew." Later, Andrew specifically sent a message to Michael Wilson. "Your girlfriend is truly amazing. As excellent as you." Ivy was the grand finale. While she danced, I stood in the backstage area and saw the director gesturing animatedly to Andrew, introducing her. But unfortunately, Andrew wasn't impressed with Ivy's performance. His evaluation was mediocre and unoriginal. After hearing that, Ivy was so angry she almost stumbled on stage. Andrew was sent from Paris and had absolute authority. Naturally, the director had to respect his opinion. The final outcome was predictable. I won. Andrew personally handed the competition invitation to me. "I will represent the dance troupe to go to Paris and compete in the international ballet competition." Standing on that ultimate stage to dance for the world to see. When I changed and came from backstage to the audience area, I couldn't find Michael Wilson anywhere. I called him. "Did you already leave?" Michael Wilson laughed. "No. I'm waiting for you at B3. I immediately turned and dashed towards the elevator lobby, anxiously saying, "I'll be right down. Don't move." While waiting for the elevator, Eric Wilson appeared again. This time, he didn't mock me. Instead, he complimented, "You danced beautifully today. Like a white swan, shining brightly on stage." I watched the numbers jumping on the elevator display and casually replied, "Thanks for the compliment, but save those words for Ivy Smith." Finally, the elevator doors opened, and I eagerly rushed in. Eric blocked my way. He grabbed my wrist, looking at me with a familiar yet unfamiliar gaze. "Emily Brown, if I leave Ivy, would you be willing to come back to me?" I frowned. "Eric, are you schizophrenic?" He was about to say more when Ivy, who had chased after us, grabbed him. "Eric, what are you doing? Are you attracted to Emily shining on stage and regretting being with me?" I had no time for their nonsense. Seizing the chance, I shook off Eric and dashed into the elevator. My heart felt like it had been thrown into boiling water, constantly bubbling. At that moment, my desire to see Michael Wilson reached its peak. So, the moment the elevator doors opened, I followed my heart and ran straight to Michael. He was standing by the car smoking. Seeing me run towards him, he simultaneously opened his arms and caught me steadily in his embrace. I couldn't wait to share with him. Hugging him tightly, I said with a smile, "Michael, I won." Michael ruffled my hair. "I know. He steadied me from his embrace, his eyes bright as stars. "I'm taking you somewhere." I didn't expect Michael to take me to a concert. It was my favorite orchestra. 2 months ago, when they toured the mainland. I was out of town and couldn't make it back in time, missing it regretfully. But hadn't they already gone to other countries for their tour? How could they suddenly return to the mainland? Until the end of the performance, the orchestra members stood in a row on stage and announced, "Tonight's concert is dedicated to Emily." Then, a spotlight shone from above my head. Two blonde, blue-eyed flower girls, holding a bouquet of bright pink roses together. They ran up to me, smiling innocently, and said in halting Chinese, "Congratulations, Sister Emily, on winning the finals." Overjoyed, I took the bouquet from them, admiring their cuteness. I sincerely thanked them. "Thank you," someone on stage with a microphone said. "All ticket proceeds from tonight's performance will be donated in Emily's name to children in mountainous areas. At the same time, thank you to Mr. Michael for his generous sponsorship." Thus, this performance concludes successfully. Applause erupted throughout the venue. Michael and I stood in the center of the audience, watched by thousands of people. I looked at him, too excited to speak. The dazzling stage lights shone from behind him, casting a golden glow over his entire figure. In his pupils, I saw a girl with a radiant smile. After leaving the theater, we went to the riverside, holding the bouquet of pink roses. I asked Michael, "How did you know I would win tonight? And you prepared such a big surprise in advance." "I'm truly overwhelmed." Michael gazed at me and said earnestly, "Because I believed you would succeed. So, this concert tonight is specially for you to celebrate." He even played the victim and said, "To invite them, I had to pay 3 times the price to persuade them to return to the Chinese mainland. So, Miss Emily Brown, you must win the championship in Paris to live up to my good intentions." I held my head high and proudly said, "Deal." Suddenly, there was a bang behind me, and a cluster of golden fireworks burst violently in the night sky. Immediately afterwards, countless fireworks soared into the sky, competing in beauty. I glanced at the fireworks and then at Michael. "Did you set them off?" Michael shrugged innocently. "Really? I didn't. But if you like them, I can arrange it right away." I quickly shook my head. "No, it's a waste of money." Michael hooked his lips. "Don't save money for me. I have too much money to spend it all." A month later, I finally stepped onto the stage in Paris as I wished. While waiting backstage, Michael called me and comforted me. "Don't be nervous. I guarantee I'll arrive in time when you take the stage to come and watch my competition." Michael started to cut down his schedule 2 weeks in advance and compressed his work. He flew to 4 countries in 2 weeks continuously. Finally, he arrived in Paris an hour ago. At this moment, he was in a car rushing here. I felt sorry for him. "Michael, actually, you don't have to rush here like this. The competition is live streamed online. You can watch it the same way," Michael said with a smile. "It's different. I want to be by your side at the most important moment of your life." He said every word firmly. "Moreover, I'm still looking forward to your answer. We had an agreement that on the night of my competition, no matter the result, I would give Michael a clear answer." I clenched the phone. "Michael, Before I could finish my words, I heard a bang on the other end of the phone, like a violent collision. Immediately afterwards, there was a hissing noise on the phone. Then the call dropped. "Michael." I had a bad feeling in my heart and started to call Michael back crazily, but no one answered. Just when I was almost on the verge of collapse, a news report suddenly interrupted the TV program. Due to the sudden break of the Cross River Bridge, a serious chain reaction car accident occurred. Some cars fell into the river, and the people in the cars were in critical condition. The rescue team had arrived at the scene and was conducting emergency rescue. The public was informed to take a detour. My knees went weak, and I reached out to support the wall to keep myself from falling. I watched the live broadcast picture on TV. Countless cars were crashed into each other, and some cars were even hanging upside down on the broken bridge, ready to fall at any moment. Suddenly, my heart ached as if being stabbed by a knife, and tears kept streaming down my face. Just then, the staff member ran up to me and said, "Emily, the next one is you. Ready to take the stage." I was like a marionette being pulled forward by him. But the next second, I suddenly broke free from his hand and turned around, running out like a crazy person, completely ignoring the people chasing and shouting behind me. I had to go to find Michael. On the way to the accident scene, I kept calling Michael, but I couldn't get through. I kept urging the driver to hurry up, but because of the sudden accident, all the surrounding roads were blocked. I had to get off the car halfway and run like a madman through the crowd. I couldn't remember how many people I bumped into and how many times I was knocked down. I kept apologizing. Finally, I arrived at the scene, but there were policemen guarding the place and wouldn't let me in. I cried and communicated with the local policemen in awkward French, begging them to let me in because my lover was inside. But they couldn't understand a word I was saying. They just kept pushing me out and yelling at me. I was so frantic that I started crying right there, standing on the street, in the middle of a crowded crowd. I looked around helplessly, tears streaming down my face, until I heard Michael Wilson call out to me, "Emily Brown." I whipped my head around. I saw Michael standing there in the crowd, dust covering his clothes, dried blood still on his forehead. His leg seemed injured, and he was standing with effort. At that distance, neither too far nor too close, we just gazed at each other silently, neither speaking. Around us, people were running, shouting, crying loudly, and the lights of police cars and ambulances flashed back and forth. Amidst all the chaos, I suddenly ran toward him. It was just a few short steps, but it felt like I was giving it everything I had. Michael caught me firmly and steadily. The force of his hug was almost enough to break my waist. I cupped his face in my hands, checking carefully, and after confirming it was just a minor scrape on his forehead, I cried even harder, not knowing if it was from relief or heartache. He gently stroked my face, wiping away my tears. I looked up at him. I couldn't tell who started it or who was more urgent. We kissed each other recklessly. Later, Michael asked me if I regretted choosing to give up the competition that night to run to him. My answer was resolute. I didn't regret it. I could try again for the competition in 3 years if I missed it this year. But if something had happened to Michael, I would have regretted it for the rest of my life. Thankfully, even though the car Michael was riding and flipped over, it saved his life. Otherwise, he would have been the one plunging off the bridge. 2 weeks later, Michael had mostly recovered and formally took me home. Wilson's mother and Wilson's father saw our tightly clasped hands and understood everything in an instant. Wilson's father didn't say much, but Wilson's mother was so moved that tears welled up in her eyes. She grabbed my hand and said, "Emily, you're finally my daughter-in-law. Hurry. Let's go pick a date right away to avoid any complications." I didn't know whether to laugh or cry and glanced at Michael for help. But he agreed. I think so too. The sooner, the better. In the 3rd week after returning home, I went to the dance company and officially resigned. I planned to start my own dance studio to prepare for the Paris dance competition in 3 years. The director tried to persuade me to stay, but I politely declined. While packing up my things in the locker room, Ivy Smith came in. She was also there to gather her belongings. "Emily, you won," she said. I didn't want to engage with her, and since I was nearly done packing, I was about to leave. Ivy caught up and blocked my path. "Emily, Eric Wilson and I broke up," she said. That surprised me a bit, and I couldn't help but mock her. "Don't worry. Just cry a little and he'll soften up. This time it's different." Ivy laughed self-deprecatingly. "The reason we broke up is that he called out your name when he was drunk. I quarreled with him, made a fuss, And he got tired of it. He personally admitted to me that he regretted it. He saw you with Michael Wilson and was in agony. He blamed me for ruining things between you two, saying you were originally going to marry him. Now, saying these things is utterly meaningless. And I don't care. Are you finished? If you're done, please move aside. Michael Wilson is still waiting for me. Ivy Smith was jostled by me on the shoulder, forced to step aside, but still shouted at me resentfully. Emily Brown. You must be so smug now. The two brothers of the Wilson family are both obsessed with you. How impressive. I stopped walking, turned back to look at her, and said with a smile, isn't it all thanks to you? If you hadn't returned in time and sabotaged things between me and Eric Wilson, I wouldn't have been able to marry the more exceptional Michael Wilson. Ivy. Thank you. Seeing me emerge from the dance company in trance, the driver proactively got out of the car and took the storage box from my hands. After getting in, I thanked him. He smiled and replied, you're welcome. Mrs. Wilson. Mrs. Wilson. I glanced at Michael Wilson sitting beside me. He wore a pleased smile and instructed the driver, raise the partition. The driver's smile grew more discreet. The partition ascended, separating the driver's compartment from the rear and creating two independent spaces. Michael yanked me into his embrace. I straddled his lap. He tilted his head up. I bent mine down. His thin lips brushed past the corner of my mouth, like an electric current surging through my body, leaving me tingling all over. Emily, I adore you. From a very, very long time ago, I have adored you. Before I could fully process those words, Michael's lips were already pressed against mine. His scorching palm cupped the small of my back, pulling me tight so my body molded perfectly against his. My breathing, along with my heartbeat, spiraled into chaos, until photos of me being kissed by Michael against the Maybach car went viral on social media, exploding across the internet. Only then did I realize he had done it deliberately. He called it declaring to the world that I belonged to him. Extra. After Ivy Smith and Eric Wilson broke up, she used some trick to get Eric to sleep with her. Ivy also became pregnant and forced Eric to marry her. They obtained their marriage license but didn't hold a wedding. Later, Ivy was caught entangled with another man by Eric, who then discovered the baby in Ivy's belly wasn't his at all. The two battled fiercely. During the divorce, Eric was swindled out of a huge sum of money by Ivy. Not long after, Ivy quickly remarried a wealthy foreigner. But the foreigner turned out to be a fraud. Not only did he blow through all her money, but he also abused her, causing a miscarriage that left her permanently infertile. Ivy wanted a divorce. The foreigner refused. Drunk, he broke one of her legs. Ivy could never dance again. Rumor has it she's living quite miserably. As my relationship with Michael Wilson was exposed, my father and stepmother began to fawn over and flatter me. I knew all too well the schemes in their hearts. So I moved out of the house early. Although on the surface we are all part of the Brown family, in private, I have cut off contact with them. I will never let them extend their clutches to Michael. I will never forget when I was 8 years old. My mother had just passed away, and my father hurriedly married my stepmother, who was pregnant. Out of spite, I ran away from home and almost got sold by human traffickers. I was already at the train station when Michael arrived in time and saved me. That day, I cried in his arms for a long time, shaking with fear afterwards. Michael, I have no mother anymore. My father has married another woman. I have no home. At that time, Michael was only 15. He patted my head and said firmly, Emily Brown, I will give you a home in the future. After growing up, Michael fulfilled his promise. He married me and gave me a home. Long after getting married, once we were chatting, Michael recalled when we were kids and saw me crying in a corner. He went to buy a lollipop to give to me, but Eric Wilson snatched it away and gave it to me first. Turns out, it was him from the very beginning.